Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. Redress the past, or reach out to the gettable white voter who says, you know what, I'd like a shot at getting in the pot business. But to do that, our entire audience.
Remember when the term Latinx started popping up everywhere as the new inclusive label for people of Latin American descent? While it gained traction in some progressive circles, the wider community largely rejected it, preferring traditional identifiers like Latino and Latina. Still, some politicians, including AOC and others, continue to use it despite growing pushback. On Real Time with Bill Maher, the host didn't hold back, calling out what he sees as a disconnect between political branding and real-world cultural identity. Whether you agree or not, it's a conversation that keeps resurfacing, and Maher is clearly not letting it slide.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
Bill Maher opened his segment with a pointed reality check aimed straight at the Democratic Party. A reminder that political complacency can have real consequences. He highlighted how, despite confidently predicting Trump's defeat, Democrats lost ground in key areas, including congressional seats they thought were safe. Heading into the election, there was a sense of overconfidence, almost as if victory was guaranteed. But voters had other plans. Maher argued that many felt abandoned by the very leaders who promised to represent them, as some Democrats focused more on performative politics and ideological purity than addressing real-world concerns. The result? A chunk of the electorate turned to Trump, not necessarily out of love for him, but out of frustration with a party that seemed more interested in symbolic wins than tangible change. Maher's message was blunt. Ignoring the core issues that matter to everyday people is a risky strategy, especially when you're counting on their votes.
Their message to you was, I'm an American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard. Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales.
Talk about political missteps. Ignoring your base while pandering to a group that isn't even fully engaged in the electoral process. And just when it seemed like the strategy couldn't get more tone-deaf, some Democrats doubled down by promoting the term Latinx, despite widespread rejection from the very community it was meant to represent. Multiple polls showed that most Hispanic voters didn't identify with the term, and even found it off-putting. But instead of listening, party leaders held on to it like it was a political masterstroke. The result? Alienation. Rather than building bridges, they pushed away voters they couldn't afford to lose, handing Trump a narrative and a political advantage he barely had to work for.
Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
AOC has built a strong reputation by championing progressive causes, often using buzzwords that energize her supporters. Naturally, she's been quick to defend the term Latinx, despite it being widely rejected by many in the Latino community she represents. The irony is hard to miss. AOC often presents herself as a Bronx-born fighter for the people, but the reality is more complicated. While she has Latino heritage, her upbringing and life experience don't fully reflect the struggles of many in the Bronx or broader Latino communities. Identity is more than just heritage. It's about culture, language, and lived experience. For many, AOC's embrace of certain progressive labels feels more performative than authentic. This disconnect is why her attempts to champion terms like Latinx sometimes miss the mark and fail to resonate deeply with the communities she aims to support.
And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids excel. Asian parents said, okay, I wish all kids well, not a racist, but I need someone who acts like my lawyer.
What many fail to acknowledge is that eliminating advanced courses, where students of all backgrounds, including many Asian students, often excel, is not promoting equity, but lowering educational standards. By prioritizing feelings over excellence, schools risk watering down the opportunities that challenge high achievers to reach their full potential. Without those advanced classes, what motivates students to push themselves harder? Why put in extra effort if everyone is rewarded the same regardless of performance? This shift can have far-reaching consequences. It removes important role models and benchmarks that inspire students from all communities to strive for success. Instead of lifting everyone up, the focus on leveling down risks fostering complacency and diminishing ambition. True fairness means providing opportunities for all students to excel, not dragging excellence down to meet the lowest common denominator. In the end, it's the students who lose out when education settles for mediocrity instead of encouraging greatness.
If you're a parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher, yeah, you're going to say, congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation.
The damage that certain progressive education policies have caused is hard to fully measure, but their effects are visible in classrooms across the country. While political control may be shifting, the impact of these policies continues to affect students every day. Many educators and parents notice that today's students often seem less prepared, less focused, and less motivated compared to previous generations. Critics argue this is because instead of raising standards, some reforms lowered the bar, labeling it equity without ensuring rigor. The result is a generation facing greater challenges in critical thinking, ambition, and discipline. Education was once seen as the key to opportunity and advancement, but under these policies, some feel it risks becoming a system that prioritizes equality of outcome over excellence. This shift threatens to undermine the potential of future leaders and weaken the foundation of our society.
President Biden wants to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer two-thirds of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer.
And that's a big reason why so many people are frustrated with Democrats and their push to cancel student loan debt. On the surface, it sounds like compassion, but look closer, and it feels more like a political move disguised as moral concern. Students willingly took on those loans, knowing their education came with a cost. Most are capable of finding jobs to repay what they owe. That's how responsibility works. Borrowing money means committing to pay it back, and doing so builds important life skills like financial discipline, hard work, and sacrifice. Instead of encouraging these values, Democrats seem to be promoting handouts that risk fostering entitlement, sending a message that accountability can be skipped if you protest loud enough. That's not true leadership, it's pandering. And increasingly, voters are recognizing this for what it really is.
A universal basic income probably sounds pretty good to a lot of people struggling without a college degree. And a number of cities have been running pilot programs in guaranteed income. But the West Hollywood program had to be suspended because it was unconstitutional. They set up a program where 25 residents were to get $1,000 for 18 months, but only if you identified as LGBT, the rest of that. Why? Because they need money more than any other people? Because no one in West Hollywood will hire a gay person?
The left has made pandering to the LGBTQ+ community their go-to political strategy, acting like they're the only group facing real challenges in America. Every speech, policy, and public performance seems designed to win over this one segment. But what about everyone else? What about the straight men and women working hard just to get by? What about other racial and cultural groups who feel sidelined? By focusing so heavily on catering to one community, Democrats have sent a clear message to millions of voters. You don't matter as much. Sure, they earned some applause and votes from the LGBTQ+ base, but politics isn't a one-group game. While obsessing over pleasing one slice of the electorate, they alienated many others. A fact the recent elections made painfully clear. Neglect has consequences, and Democrats learned the hard way that pandering isn't the same as effective governing.
When he ran in 2020, Bernie Sanders said he would legalize marijuana on his first day as president, but that the business of selling pot would be awarded first to those who suffered most from the drug war. And you know what? I can't argue with that instinct. The drug war has been a horrendous instrument of prejudice and punishment for racial minorities, so it seems fair that they jump the line for weed franchises the way Indians did for casinos. But it's also what's holding up Republican support for legalizing weed nationally, which would be good for everybody. And these are the hard, practical choices the Democrats have to weigh.
Bill Maher's passion for cannabis is practically a religion to him, so imagine his surprise now that Republicans, of all people, are pushing for national legalization, sparked by a new announcement from President Trump. The party Maher has roasted for years might actually deliver the green revolution he's been waiting for from Democrats for decades. The irony couldn't be thicker. If the GOP follows through, Maher faces a real identity crisis. Does he stay loyal to his liberal crew that's all talk and no action? Or does he swallow his pride, light up, and admit the Republicans got it done? One thing's for sure. If national legalization happens under Trump's watch, don't be surprised if Maher starts flirting with the idea of voting red.
Redress the past, or reach out to the gettable white voter who says, you know what, I'd like a shot at getting in the pot business. But to do that, our entire audience.
At the end of the day, Democrats are digging their own political grave with policies that insult voters' intelligence, pander to niche groups, and lower education and accountability standards. From forcing Latinx onto communities that rejected it, to canceling debts that should teach discipline, and ignoring everyday Americans while chasing woke obsessions, they've made it clear where their priorities lie, and spoiler alert, it's not with the people who keep this country running. Meanwhile, Republicans are sliding into the gap, even outflanking Democrats on issues like marijuana legalization, something liberals should have owned years ago. Voters are tired of the hypocrisy, virtue signaling, and empty promises. When election day comes, that frustration will roar louder than any catchy slogan. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.